Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. This is a production of 440 Sports. Contractual obligation met. I have mentioned my name 3 times in the first 30 seconds. Thumbs up from everybody out there. Appreciate you joining me on a podcast platform or on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, rate, and all of that good stuff. We're going to talk about something on all 5 guys who are reported to be in line to join the Titans. As of Wednesday evening, none officially announced by the team, even though that window has opened official free agency. How restricted free agents have played out for the Titans, the departures of David Long and Nate Davis, the mysteries of cleanup at the gym, and why people cannot read. Lots of fun stuff packed into this episode. I thank you for joining me. Let's jump right in with Andre Dillard, who ranks in my eyes, and I think most eyes, as the most important free agent that the Titans have agreed to terms with so far. Left tackle from Philadelphia, one-time first-round pick. Did not play a lot with the Eagles after kind of messing up his rookie year as Jason Peters' replacement. Then got hurt and beat out and never really resurfaced. That said, he's got the sort of athleticism that the Titans really desire at the position. Not a Taylor Lewan level athlete, but a Taylor Lewan level athlete is a rarity. And so I think they would really like this guy to win the starting job. I know that they would really like this guy to win the starting job. You'll have to draw some conclusions of your own as to how I've come to that. And we'll talk about what that means to the draft in a second. I'm dying to know the contract structure, and I'm sure it'll be out between the time that I record this and the time you listen to it. People refuse to wait. And so they're declaring him with the 3-year, $29 million report, a $10 million a year guy. And they're confused as to why the Titans would spend so much on a guy that appears to some as a bust, who suffered 2 injuries, a torn biceps that cost him an entire year, a broken arm that cost him some games. But I'm telling you that the guarantee not being released by the agent in the report of the money is very telling. I bet you the guarantee is low. I bet you the 3rd year is paperwork only. We shall see that soon. And I'm telling you, you got to wait on these deals until you find out all the details about the structure and the guarantee. If he's as good as they hope he'll be, obviously, even if it's 3 years and $29 million straight up, it'll be a good deal. They want him to start. I don't know what that is going to mean in terms of what they do in the draft at number 11, but I am far less certain than I was right when they signed him, right when they agreed to terms with him, that they will still be drafting a left tackle at 11. Atlanta and Chicago in front of them are both offensive tackle needy. Is the 3rd left tackle the left tackle the Titans want if those 2 teams take one? Maybe. Is the 3rd left tackle better than the 1st or 2nd player at another position? It's hard to say. But I could see the Titans taking an edge there. I could see the Titans taking a corner there. I could see them trading back and looking wide receiver there, though it's really not a great wide receiver draft. I mean, there are a lot of good wide receivers in the draft. There's not an 11th pick wide receiver in the draft. There's a hole in everybody, maybe. Quentin Johnston, is estimated 4.3, and I'm sure, they know how fast he is from the film, 6'3", 208. Looks like the best combination of size and speed. Jordan Addison's only 5'11", 173. He ran a 4.49. projects to be a Tyler Lockett type. But if you're spending the 11th pick in the draft, you want bigger. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a Jarvis Landry type. He didn't run at the combine, but everything I see says below average top end speed. They're trying to get fast. If you're drafting 11th overall, he's 6'1", 196, not bad, but you got to have top end speed out of that guy. So that leaves me thinking, if you're going wide receiver, maybe you trade back. And then, another thing that I've been considering there is maybe Michael Meyer, the tight end. But is there enough distance between him and a guy like Darnell Washington that it would warrant taking a tight end at 11 or even, with your first round pick if you trade back? They can both be the inline type of tight end that the Titans need to pair with Chig Okonkwo. So I'm less certain about what the Titans draft priorities are, how they'd stack, what's the premium pick for them than I was before the Andre Dillard signing. So he's good enough, I believe, in their eyes to probably have a bearing on that, particularly if they're not getting the cream of the crop. If they had their pick of the first offensive tackle there, I think it'd probably be pretty hard to resist. But if they're picking the third offensive tackle there and it doesn't happen to be their favorite of the three, I think it becomes more difficult. Arden Key, I really love the Arden Key signing. And partly it's because of how well he played against the Titans in 2022. In 2 games, he had 5 tackles, 1 for a loss, 5 quarterback hits, a sack, and a fumble recovery. And I wrote a while back, those of you who are members of my site, which all of you should be, that in an ideal world, the Titans would be in position to start to think not just about who they need to replace this year, but about who they might need to replace next year. And the 3 guys who headline that list are Derrick Henry, obviously, Danico Autry, and Christian Fulton. Those are guys whose contracts come up. Fulton's got the soft tissue injury issue. Henry is old in running back years, and Nico Autry is old in age years. Now, and I would hope that Autry, still has juice and could still be a guy for them in 2024 that they'd want to re-sign. But I think Arden Key is an Autry-like guy. Now, they're both 6 feet 5 inches, but Key does give up 40 pounds. Autry is 285 listed as. And everything I've found has Key at 240. So there's a big difference there. Autry looks to project to be a defensive end who replaced DeMarcus Walker on that end. But he's got the flexibility that Autry has to play tackle, even end, and outside linebacker. So there are versatile pieces for the defensive front, and we'll see where the Titans go from here with that. I heard the Jags were pissed to lose Key because it was a big deal to him to get an opportunity to start. And he's not going to start in Jacksonville where he was playing outside linebacker because Travon Walker, number 1 pick in 2022, is a starter. And Josh Allen, the 7th pick in 2019, is a starter. But is it that big a deal to start if you're in a rotation and you're going to be on the field? He's probably not going to be on the field in the biggest pass rushing situations for the Jaguars, given the draft value and the skill level of those 2 guys. So, yeah, it's more than starting, I would think. It's big opportunities for Arden Key that he's going to get here. One question I have, and I know the Raiders are a messed up team. So he's a 3rd round choice by the Raiders in 2018. He played 3 seasons there, and then he was waived. Played a year in San Francisco, where obviously Rand Carthon knows him from. Of these 5 guys the Titans have added, Carthon knows 3 of them from time in San Francisco together. But then he spent a year in San Francisco and a year in Jacksonville. So the Titans are going to be his 4th team in 3, 4, 5, 6 years. 4 teams in 6 years. It's a lot of movement. So nobody's fallen in absolute love with him that they wanted to keep him around. That's just one kind of aside that makes me a little bit curious. 3rd addition, Daniel Brunskill. He's played center, guard, and even right tackle for San Francisco. So this is a Carthon guy. Started every game in 2020 and 2021, but only 2 games last year. Those starting years, right guard primarily and center, but obviously viewed as a guy who can play anywhere up and down the line. So the Titans like that versatility. I think he's slotted for right guard here, and he's Nate Davis's replacement. And you've got to like that in the 2 guys that the Titans lost in free agency, the 2 guys who were key guys, David Long and Nate Davis. Titans have already replaced both of them. We'll get to Azeez Al-Shaair in a minute, who's David Long's replacement. Brunskill, 23rd guard in Pro Football Focus's grades, 67.3. That's 14 points better pass blocking than run blocking. Davis ranked 17th. Aaron Brewer ranked 46th. So he's towards the better end of what the Titans did last year. Mike Herndon pointed out in an excellent piece about Andre Dillard, which you should go see. It's a great film look at what exactly he did do when he played in Philadelphia. But that both Dillard and Brunskill have been better pass protectors so far in their career than run blockers. I think it's in the Titans' history recently under Mike Vrabel, they've had run blocking guys who haven't been nearly as good at pass protecting for the most part. And does this signal hearken to some change that's coming in what they're going to do? I think that's a little big of a leap at this point, but certainly, having to get them up to speed as run blockers, as opposed to having to get them up to speed as pass blockers, is a nice change. And they should be sack preventers first and foremost. And that's a good thing for Ryan Tannehill, who, again, it sure seems like he's going to be the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers said today that his intention is to go to the Jets. I don't know what the market for Ryan Tannehill is now, where the Titans would be trading him. So it seems reinforced again that he's going to be the quarterback in Nashville this coming year. Certainly they need guys up front that can make room for Derrick Henry, but maybe those shift a little bit away. But they need some damn receivers, and we'll get to that. Azeez Al-Shaair is the new inside linebacker, the one who played defense. He should be a cover guy given his speed, but he only played 143 coverage snaps in 2022 compared to David Long, who played 446. So that's 143 coverage snaps versus 446 for Long. PFF, I don't like to rely on their grades, but as new people are coming in, we're going to rely on any little bits of information that we can get, right? PFF graded his coverage just a touch below Long's. It's a 1-year deal reportedly worth up to $6 million. So we'd have to, we don't know if that's playtime incentive or what, but it could be less than that. Here's the question. Is he going to play side by side with Monty Rice? Because they seem to have the better side of their skill set seems to be the same. Coverage, ideally. Rice is 6 feet tall, 233. Al-Shaair is 6'2", 228. You can put those guys on the field together. I think they don't know yet, but I would think in some situations you'd have them out there together against teams with, good receiving tight ends and running backs who are dangerous out of the backfield. But against a team that's got a heavy running back that's coming downhill at you, I think you're probably going to need a heavier, more durable and rugged guy in there beside one of those two lighter, faster inside backers, a bigger run stopper. I'm not saying that it would be Jack Gibbons, but a Jack Gibbons type. He's 6'3", 242. That's more in the mold. Maybe he'd be competing for that spot. It's a lesser role for sure. None of these guys are full-time per se, and the Titans like to bring a safety down to help in some of these situations. So we'll see. If you haven't read about Al-Shaair's background, I wrote a little bit about that at paulkuharsky.com. So you should check that out. Brief interlude. I know you guys and gals love the brief interludes. I get rave reviews about the brief interludes. So I work out at a place called Iron Tribe. It's kind of high intensity training. It's only a 25-minute workout usually after an extensive warm up. But usually at the end of these workouts, I'm dead, and I know it's not the best thing, but I'm down on the floor, breathing heavy. And most of the people there are more fit and more used to these workouts than I am, even though I've been going since July. And so we generally help each other out with cleanup, but it's kind of like if your wife is the type, I'm not stereotyping here, but if your wife is the type who likes things done on her time schedule, so you say, I'll take care of it, but then she ends up taking care of it because she wants it taken care of now, and you would have gotten to it if you could have done it on your time schedule. But so I find myself often still exhausted, and trying to recover, and other people are taking apart my my bar, putting my weights away, and I feel guilty. Put my jump rope away, put my kettlebells away. So, I mean, that's the nice gesture by you. Thank you very much, but I'll get to it. There's not a class immediately after our 9 a.m. class. So I joke with them about it, but it does feel a little bit like the homestead can feel sometimes. And I promise I'll get to it. Just let me, I'm on my hands and knees over here trying to catch my breath. Who we have next here? I'm not going to talk much about the fifth guy, Luke Griffin. He's unlikely to factor in on defense unless another plague hits the Titans. And guess who he's for? Another special teams ace for Craig Aukerman. Will this be the special teams ace who throws Titans special teams over the top? Why should we believe he will be when all the other special teams aces who passed through Nashville have not been? Fool me 10 times, shame on me. Luke Griffin. Seems a little odd, but it's expected that they're going to get one of these guys every year. PaulKuharsky.com. If you're not a member, the button now goes right through. Click on the membership. If you're doing it on your phone, the 3 dashes, you hit on the 3 dashes, membership page will come up. If you're on the website, membership button right across the top. $5.99 a month, a steal at that price. You can get 12 months for the price of 11 months. Mike Herndon's pieces, everything that I write, our private chats on video, which are really good. Blake Bedingfield now wrote a free agency preview where Andre Dillard was one of the guys that he suggested the Titans go out and get. And he'll be writing draft previews coming up as well. It's a great value. Ask anybody who has it, but I urge you to check it out. Give me a month. See if I don't deliver on the price of a less than expensive cup of coffee or a cocktail. I urge you to come join. Nate Davis signed with Chicago. Titans, I don't think, made any effort to bring Nate Davis back. Look, Nate Davis very clearly wanted his season to end late when the Titans thought he could have fought through an injury, and he chose not to. I think he should have been a rock for this line, a third-round pick who developed and became a foundational piece of the offensive line. They didn't feel like it went that way for him, and despite the fact that that opened up a fourth spot on the offensive line, really a third spot, because we're going to get to Aaron Brewer, and I think he's locked in as one. But despite the fact they already need a left tackle and a left guard, they were willing for right guard to open up and to have to go get Brunskill, which they did because they were that far down on Nate Davis. And by the way, if you're not a member, you maybe didn't hear me saying that they were down on Nate Davis and that there was no reason to expect him to be re-signed. So people who are members of my site were not surprised that Nate Davis wasn't re-signed, because I'd been telling them since late in the season, I think, that the team was down on Nate Davis. David Long is a significant story here, and he's a barometer in many ways of Titans fandom. He was cheap. He went for 2 years and $11 million to Miami. And people say, oh my God, how did the Titans not keep him for that? Well, first off, the Titans very clearly were out on David Long before that. But David Long wasn't going shopping himself on the market and getting a price and coming back to the Titans and saying, well, how about this? That's not generally how it works. Clearly, they were done with him. But I'd ask you this. Are you frustrated by the injuries or not? Have you been calling on the Titans to find ways to deal with the injuries or not? If you have, them letting David Long walk, no matter how cheaply, not that they had a chance to match, is them dealing with the injuries. We all think they must solve this thing. Here they're doing a tangible thing to try to help chip away at the injury thing. Mike Vrabel's talked about him being a repeat offender with a soft tissue injury, hamstring, that cost him 11 games in 2 seasons. They think that it's an avoidable injury that he's not doing enough work to avoid. They give him the tools to work through this and to do the sort of stretching and whatever else he needs to do during his time away from the team. And they found that he didn't do enough of that, and that he hurt it once and then he came back and then he hurt it again. And Vrabel points out that Kevin Byard's never pulled a hamstring in his entire time with the Titans. So I ask you, are you out on the injuries, and do you want them to find fixes? Because this is one of their fixes. They're going to move on from a guy that's repeatedly hurt and find somebody who doesn't have this history and this problem. You can't say you want the injuries fixed, see them do something tangible to fix the injuries, and then say, oh, but I like David Long. Why wouldn't they re-sign David Long? Well, the reason they're not re-signing David Long is because they can't count on him being on the field. 11 games missed in 2 seasons is too much. And when you take that guy out of the lineup, it screws up the continuity that they need to be the defense that they can be. So you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and say, my God, this team with the injuries is out of control. They've got to solve it. And then when they make a move that they think helps solve it by getting rid of somebody they've identified as a repeat offender with what they feel is an avoidable injury, and they let him go and they move on, say, oh my God, how could they let David Long go? You have to pick a side on this. You're either anti-injury or you're okay with David Long being hurt. Which is it? Because the Titans have picked their side here, and they're doing something about the injuries that we've all been bitching about for a long time. So I'm with them on David Long. And then David Long tweeted after the fact, my God, they're acting like I tore my ACL. So He still isn't acknowledging that 11 missed games over 2 years is significant. And it's the reason he only got 2 years and $11 million, which for the caliber of player David Long is really, really inexpensive. He's not making a connection that cost him a bunch of money. My God, they're acting like I tore my ACL. Yeah, well, 11 games isn't that far off of what you might have missed with the torn ACL. Gotta add it up. Why can't people read? This is a big problem that I have with Twitter, and you know this. You guys, enough of you know me. I've been, I go through Titans history once in a while, and I set up some tweets to remind you of things that have happened in Titans history. So Wednesday morning, I tweeted this. 3 years ago, those are the first 3 years, 3 words. 3 years ago today, the Titans announced a multi-year extension with Ryan Tannehill. You would not believe how many tweets I got that I scared them that the Titans had done some deal with Ryan Tannehill. Now, how is that my fault if you can't read the first 3 words 3 years ago? How stupid are people? 3 years ago today. How do you see the word extension first in that? Do you not read from the first word to the last word? That's how I read. How do you read? I'm not taking any blame for that or offering any apologies. I can give reading lessons. There. First 3 words, 3 years ago. Relax, people. And come to terms with Tannehill. As I said earlier, that there's nowhere for him to go. Name the market now that's looking for Ryan Tannehill. Let's talk about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is a restricted free agent. The Titans haven't had a lot of action in restricted free agency for themselves because most of their players who had finished 3 years were still attached to them, not unrestricted free agents, going into their 4th year, were bad players. They let a ton of them walk. David Quesenberry was maybe the best. Deontay Foreman, though he wound up coming back, and the whole league misread him. But a lot of other guys that you had no concern for, and that walked. Dickerson, the defensive lineman, was one of them. Matt Dickerson. So the Titans decided that they were not going to tender Nick Westbrook-Ikhine at $2.627 million, $2.6 million. It's pretty expensive for Nick NWI. But instead, they were negotiating with he and his agent, and they made him an offer below that. And you can sign, a guy can sign a contract that's not as valuable as the tender. He, surprisingly to me, and I don't know how low the offer was, but turned down the offer and said, I'm going to go test the market. And if I don't find, something that I want, I'll circle back to you. You know who makes less than the tender that Westbrook-Ikhine, that could have kept Westbrook-Ikhine in Nashville? He didn't have a choice if they tendered him at the $2.6 million. If they tendered him at that, another team could have signed him to an offer sheet. If the Titans didn't match that offer sheet, they would have lost him for nothing, but they would have had the right to match that offer sheet. You know who makes less than $2.6 million in average annual value? T. Higgins, Christian Watson, Elijah Moore, Michael Pittman, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, Josh Palmer, Mecole Hardman, who's now a free agent, Laviska Shenault. I look for veterans. Those are all guys on rookie contracts. Veterans, Khalif Raymond in the 7th year. Been there, done that. Calvin Ridley, going into the 4th year of his rookie deal, is at 2.725. So he's right there around the number. Marquise Hollywood Brown, a first round pick like Ridley, just under $3 million going into his fifth year. So from Hollywood Brown, who's 60th in the league at wide receiver in average annual value, to Braxton Berrios, who's 59th, the average jumps from 2.9 million to 6 million. It's basically the difference from rookie deals, Khalif Raymond accepted, to veteran deals. The third year minimum is the fourth year minimum is 1.08 million. I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine could get that. I think the Titans probably offered him that, maybe that plus something. But I just wonder, like, on the one hand, you know what you're getting with him. You're getting a fourth receiver who's going to run the right routes and can play good special teams for you. And the Titans put a value on that. I respect that a lot. I'm surprised that they didn't ensure they're keeping him because they've got really nothing on the roster, right? Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, and nothing you can count on. Racing McMath, you can't count on Racing McMath. I mean, they've got nothing. So right now, there's a big hole on the depth chart after your number one guy and a slot guy who was hurt his entire rookie year and didn't prove he could handle the punt return job. But, is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine going to get $2.7 million somewhere? I don't know. Titans fans certainly don't think so, based on the reaction, the Twitter reaction to the story I wrote that he turned down an offer to go test the market. Titans could be pretty confident that he's going to come back and they'll have him, or that they can do better. They didn't tender Cody Hollister, thank God. This guy shouldn't have been on the roster as long as he was. They had zero alternatives. I pray that they don't end up in a situation where they're injured again and they have to go crawling to Cody Hollister and bring him back. But it's interesting about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Now, Teair Tart got a second-round tender. He deserves that. He got $4.3 million. It's a good payday. Now, if somebody were to come to negotiate with Teair Tart and give him an offer sheet that he signed, the Titans could match it or not match it and get a second-round pick in return. Nobody's doing that, right? The tender basically ensures that they get to keep Teair Tart. $4.3 million is a high price tag, and nobody's giving him a deal that's more attractive than the $4.3 million one-year deal that gets him to free agency and giving up a second-round pick for him. It's too expensive. I'm really surprised that Aaron Brewer also got a second-round tender. Now, Aaron Brewer at $4.3 million is absolutely starting for this team. There's no way he's getting that to be depth. I am virtually certain he's moving from left guard to center, and he's going to replace Ben Jones. He's going to have to do better with his snaps. They're going to have to give him a left guard who, combined with Brunskill, will give him some security with good players on both sides of him. But they value him a lot more than outsiders. And this is a safety move. They already have brought in 2 offensive linemen. They still need, at the very least, a left guard. They could draft a left tackle, as we discussed, at number 11 or somewhere in their first 3 picks. And they still need depth, though Jamarco Jones could factor in. They still need depth. They aren't done on the offensive line, even after agreeing to terms with 2 guys in the first, 3 days of free agency, so to speak. They're not willing to risk Aaron Brewer going somewhere else because then they'd need yet another piece, despite the fact that you and I can't imagine another team, if they did the right of first refusal, if they did the $2.6 million tag, can't imagine that somebody would sign him to something attractive and they'd be left just to match it, or to lose him. Well, what's the danger of just matching it? I don't know, but they're a lot higher on him than all of us. They're worried about losing a piece and needing a piece. And they really like his smarts. They think that he's going to grow and get better, and they're banking on Aaron Brewer. But what they really need is these additions to be good, and for Nicholas Petit-Frere to make a big step in his second year, and for Aaron Brewer to grow as they expect. But Aaron Brewer needs to be, the weak link on this line. He wasn't last year. I mean, I guess he was the second weakest link on the line. Dennis Daly by far was the worst player on the line. They're not going to have anybody nearly as bad as Daly in 2023. Hopefully they have a healthy line, and they've got a new line coach. They've got a new offensive coordinator, a lot of changes. Two guys who are better pass protectors now than run blockers. Maybe a little bit of change in philosophy there. We'll see. But Aaron Brewer's in the right place at the right time, getting a little bit over $4 million for his fourth year in the league. Good for him. Good for him. But I know if he's got some missteps along the way, Titans fans going to be all over him. Shouldn't be all over him to the degree they were all over Dennis Daly, because he's not going to be that bad. Hey, I appreciate you joining me. Stay tuned to paulkuharsky.com for free agent news and analysis. I'll talk to you again next week, and then I'll have stuff for you the week after from Arizona, where I will attend the annual owners meetings, which is a very fruitful trip. So I'm looking forward to that. And maybe I'll get the weather that we've missed here for spring break. In the meantime, don't block the box, but be sure, please, to lock your locks.